Okay. Good morning, everybody. So today we'll be talking about a topic called API gateway. So API gateway, let's understand what it is. I'm sure you guys are familiar with the APIs itself. So the RESTful APIs and SOAP APIs, right? So this API gateway will act as a front door for all of your APIs. So you have your APIs created and deployed somewhere else, okay, but you do not expose them directly to the client. Rather, you put your API gateway as your front door and then say that, hey, this is acting as my gateway is kind of welcoming it to the other space, right? So it's acting as a front gate, and then every single request goes through the API gateway. So it helps you with your creating the API, managing the API, monitoring the API. You can secure it. You can throttle it. Okay, you can if you want to monitor it at any point. If you want to find out how many invocations, how many transactions per second is happening right now, you'll be able to know it, and you'll be able to create the APIs there. You can maintain it, and it helps you with something called API versioning also. Let's say you have your iPhone 8, okay, iOS 8, or I don't know, now it's 13 maybe, iOS 13 now. So sure, Apple released next version, iOS 14, right? They're maintaining the multiple versions of it. So behind the scenes, your APIs also, you'll maintain multiple versions of it. Okay. So I'm assuming you guys are sort of familiar with this microservice architecture. So let's say there is a microservice called customer service. Customer microservice is responsible for managing and creating the customer itself. Let's say there is another microservice called order service. I'm speaking in terms of Amazon retail system, right? So you will have a multiple microservices. Each one is responsible in creating and managing that specific that specific entity. They call it a resource. Okay, so you have multiple APIs. Let's say if you upgrade your customer API from version 8 to version 9, you want to have both of these versions up and running at some point, and then you have to be able to access to both of them. You have to be able to access to both of these versions for short period, and then you want to slowly cut all the user base from version 8 to version 9. So that's called API version management. So API versioning can be done by API gateway. So API gateway is nothing but a simple front ender for all of your APIs. Okay. So what are the benefits of API? Oh, by the way, this API gateway is acting as a front end, and behind the scenes, the real provider of your APIs will be someone else. Your Lambda can provide, Lambda can be called by your API gateway, or your EC2s. You may be exposing a web endpoint or REST endpoint through your EC2 instance. Let's say you have an EC2 instance there, and Tomcat is running, and you deployed a Java-based web application. Your Tomcat exposed it. And then you can have your API gateway as your front door. And then when you call the API gateway will forward it to all of these, the backends. So your backends can be different and you can change anytime. So I'm going to show you with an example. You'll understand what I'm saying here. So what's the benefits? Well, you can manage the traffic. It's all at one place. And then you can maintain your authorization and access control, who can and cannot access it. And also you can monitor it. Once you monitor your traffic, once you understand what's going on, how many requests are coming in, what's your typical load profile is, what time of the day is it going up, going down, etc. You'll be able to monitor that. You'll be able to manage the traffic. Monitoring is nothing but health checks, right? So what backend, what APIs are healthy, what APIs are not healthy, etc. You'll be able to monitor the health checks. And the API version management, as I said just now, you'll be able to maintain multiple versions. And of course, you can throttle it. Throttling requests to prevent attacks. So denial of service and denial of service is one of the security attacks, right? You'll be able to put throttling at the front gate itself. At any time, I can only take 100 transactions per second. You cannot take more than. You can throttle it to 100 TPS, transactions per second, so that nobody can flood it. So these are the benefits. So let's talk about some jargon before we talk about, before we look at an example with the API gateway, right? So API itself, API is a collection of resources and methods. So let's talk about what a resource is. There is a concept called resource-oriented architecture, ROA. In the resource-oriented architecture, resource is the central focus. That is your noun. So let's say there is a person, a customer, right? So customer is a resource. So customer is a resource, and customer API, customer is a resource, and that particular customer resource, you will have APIs on top of it saying that, hey, I want to get all the persons, okay, or customers, and then, or give me a customer with the ID 123. So you will have all the APIs surrounding with that resource, creating a customer, deleting a customer, updating a customer, your CRUD operations, CRUD, create, read, update, delete operations, and your search customers. So your customer microservice is responsible for exposing APIs, everything around that customer. So in this particular case, customer is your resource. So typical resource-oriented architecture, guys, take a look at this one here. These are API taxonomy, REST taxonomy to an extent. So if you look at this /persons, okay, /persons will give you all the persons. If you want to ask for an API, call your API /persons. Give me all the APIs. Give me all the persons. And then if you're looking for a specific person, then you say /persons /123. Give me a person with the ID 123. If you do the same URI, if you do a HTTP GET, if you do a URI, if you make a HTTP GET call on this URL, you will get a person. If you make a HTTP post on the same URL, you create a person. If you do a HTTP delete on the same URL, you're deleting a customer. If you do a HTTP put on the same URL, you're updating a customer. And now let's go down. Now you got the customer. Now you want to go to all the accounts of the customer. So /persons /123/accounts. This one will give you all the accounts of a person with ID 123. So this particular person's accounts, give me all of them. So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with this whole resource-oriented architecture and REST taxonomy. So this is a kind of a REST nomenclature, okay? Slash order, slash account. These are different microservices, okay? So that's about the resource. The resource is supposed to be noun, your person, your weather, yeah. Let's say if you are talking about weather surveys, slash weather probably will give, let's say we are exposing the weather for each zip code. So slash weather will give me the weather across all the zip codes in the United States. But slash weather slash 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then it will give me the weather for that specific zip code. Make sense? And slash weather, if I do a HTTP post, then I'm creating the weather records. Okay. So method, it's a HTTP method in it's a REST API, get, post, put, delete, etc. And there is another one called stage here. So stage is nothing but it's a deployment stage of your APIs. You can have various environments, right? Dev, QA, stage, prod, or you can have a V1, V2, version 1, version 2, version 3. Same API. Let's say if I'm creating a person's API, okay? So person's API, V1. I'll create a version 1 and then deploy it. Then I'll copy it and make it version 2 and make some changes. That's my version 2 API. So slash person slash V1, I'm hitting the version 1. Slash person slash V2, I'm hitting the version 2 of the same person API. Okay? How many of you kind of understand what I'm saying here? I know some of you probably not familiar with this concept at all. Let me just a gut check. Is it completely Greek and Latin? Yeah? Speak it. It's okay.
I can follow.
You're able to follow because, yeah, I know.
Follow Venkat.
Yeah.
Even I'm able to follow Venkat.
Okay. I know a couple of you are not able to follow. I probably guess because of your experience to this industry and to this specific area. So I will offline share some resources. Probably my own videos from my Java training are okay. So it's a RESTful. It's an API. You have your web services we're talking about. Okay. Yesterday I was telling you, right? iPhone, the weather app behind the scenes, it uses Yahoo's weather API. In fact, let's see if it's exposed in any way outside. Weather data API. There are other okay. Weather Yahoo Development Network. Yeah, looks like they have exposed all the APIs to the world, so you can write your front end. Okay, so what we are doing here is like Weather API, we will be exposing our APIs. Okay, and then some people who are experts in the front end area, like Apple, right? Apple is just created an app behind the scenes using the same API, but the power is actually coming from APIs. Okay, so front end is not a big deal. Okay, so anyways, so what? This is my objective, guys. My objective is we will create an API gateway. We will create an API inside an API gateway. And that API gateway will act as a front gate and forward the request to my Lambda. So API gateway will trigger my Lambda when I make a HTTP request, that is where I was going. So I'm marrying API gateway and the Lambda functions together here, if you understand where I'm trying to go. Okay, so for that, what we will do is first let's create a simple Lambda function. Okay, let's create a simple Lambda function. So let's go to Lambda. I'll call this first API gateway function. Yeah, this is my Lambda function. It doesn't do much. It's let's say simple hello world. Okay, so here it automatically gave me this a simple Node.js based Lambda function. Okay, see here, it created a JavaScript object notation JSON object called response here with the status code 200. HTTP status code is 200, and the body is hello from Lambda. Okay, and then it's returning the response. I'll change a bit. Welcome to my first API gateway. Yeah, I'll leave everything as is. I'll save it. Okay, so my function, my first API gateway function is readily available. In fact, let's unit test it and then see what's happening there. So if I pass something like this in the event, key 1 value 1, key 2 value 2, key 3 value 3. If I pass this as an input to my function, what happens? Let's go ahead and unit test it. What kind of response I got it? I got this kind of response. Welcome to my first API gateway example. And I got this status code as 200. Status code is HTTP status code. Okay. Now your API gateway will be able to read the status code. Okay. So now let's put an API gateway on top of it. This is a Lambda function. Lambda function is doing what it's supposed to do. Let's go to API gateway. So my intention here is to create a REST API. So it's a HTTP API, a simple cost-effective REST APIs, but the REST API, the actual REST API itself is more robust, and this is the real money. Okay, so you'll be able to create the whole REST jargon, your resources, method, API, etc. So let's go ahead and go to REST API and click on this build. So it automatically creates a simple pet store API for you. Okay, but let's not take this example API. Let's go to new API. We will create our own. Okay, I will call it first API. Okay, and my endpoint type is regional. So this API is going to be regional in Ohio here, right? And I can also make an edge optimized, meaning it goes to all the edge locations, like CloudFront, and then private API gateway. So with the private API gateway, it's not exposed to it's within your VPC. If you don't want to expose it to outside, but I want to expose it out to outside. So that's my regional, and I'm creating a REST API. Yeah, let's go ahead and create an API. So this is how it looks. So here, it's all about your REST taxonomy now. So by default, you got your slash. Now, let's see. This is my first API. So how do I, what's my resource going to be? My resource is going to be, let's say, person. I'll call the person itself or persons, okay? So when somebody calls /persons, my first API will be invoked, okay? This is my resource name and resource path is /persons, okay? Create resource. And this is my API /persons, right? Now, we have to attach a method now, right? HTTP get or post or create or whatever. So now create a method. I'm doing a HTTP get here. I'm doing a HTTP get. So /persons, if somebody calls if somebody makes a HTTP get on /persons, what should happen is what is happening here, guys. Okay. What is your integration type? Well, Lambda function. Either you can do an HTTP or you can just stub it out, stub your API using mock. Okay. Or you can use other AWS services. You can do VPC link and all, but let's do the Lambda function. This is where the combination of API gateway and Lambda function, that is what makes the serverless web application makes possible. Serverless backend, serverless mobile applications. That is what makes powerful. Yeah, let's do that. So Lambda function, we will be charged only when Lambda is called. So that means my compute resource will be running, my Lambda will be running only when API gateway calls it. API gateway will be invoked when somebody makes an HTTP API. So if nobody is making HTTP API, my compute service is not running. My Lambda will not be called. I'm not paying 24/7. I'm paying only for it's using the sub-second billing, use only for the seconds that my Lambda is called. It's as simple as that. So since we are talking about passing to the Lambda function as is, I wanted to, we have to use this called the Lambda proxy integration. So then what happens is your HTTP request will be passed as is. So now with the Lambda proxy integration, your API gateway will pass all the HTTP request headers and your request parameters, your path parameters, all of that will be passed as is to your backend, meaning to your Lambda. Okay, so use your proxy integration, and it's going to be deployed in US East 2 and this Lambda region. Okay, Lambda region is US East 2. Okay, so where do you want me to forward it to? When somebody makes a HTTP get on /persons, what Lambda function must be called, and please pass the complete request payload and all the parameters, request parameters, path parameters, everything to this one by saying it. You act as a proxy and give it to them, is what we're saying. And what's your Lambda function? What's that? My first function. Okay, you just keep typing M and then you'll find out first API gateway. There you go, first API gateway. So that is your Lambda function. It automatically populated. Sure, use the default timeout. Go ahead and save it. You are about to give API gateway permission to invoke your Lambda function. Absolutely. That's it, guys. So when your method request, okay, when you make an HTTP get on this, it goes to your integration request, meaning it acts as your Lambda proxy, okay? And then Lambda proxy will forward it to your Lambda function, the real function, first API gateway function. This is how it will be called. So when a client makes a HTTP call, it goes through your proxy, Lambda proxy. Your Lambda proxy will give the complete HTTP headers and request parameters, all the HTTP related stuff to your Lambda, and Lambda will echo back. Lambda will give you some response back, right? And then it goes through your integration response. and goes back to your method response and give you back. So essentially, your API gateway is in the middle. So you can, using API gateway, you can change your request that's coming from the client using this integration request, or when Lambda gives something, before you actually give it to the client, you can put your post processor here, so your integration response also. Meaning, let's say you want to, Lambda gave you in a raw format, and if you want to zip it, the response back to client, so that you are using less bandwidth. If you want to do that, absolutely you can do that. Anyways, so now let's go ahead and test it. Click on this guy. Let's go ahead and test our API. And do you have any query strings? You guys know what a query string is. Question mark, first name, question mark, key equal to value 1, key 2 equal to value 2. Question mark, first name equal to Venkat, and last name equal to Hari, like that. Right? Do you want to pass any of the HTTP headers? Not really. And let's go ahead and test it. I want to test it. That's it. API gateway. I'm unit testing it. I got HTTP status code to 200, latency 36 milliseconds. My body is welcome to my first API gateway example. Beautiful. API gateway, got it. Make sense? So this is just the unit testing, right? And I did not deploy this API yet. So let's go ahead and deploy it. This is your method execution. Let's go back. So when you want to deploy this API, so that everyone will be able to call it, okay? So go to actions again, and then say, deploy your API. So when you deploy an API, you have this concept called stage. Now, what stage are you deploying it? Is it a production version, or is it a QA? Is it targeting to be a V1? So you can define that, okay? So deploy API, and I want to test it. So I don't have any stages. So I'll create a new stage called QA. And then go ahead and click on the deploy. So it's deployed now. If you want to go to later on, if you want to go there, click on stage, click on QA, and this one will give you what API to be invoked. See this one here? This guy gave me, this is my API /QA, right? But /QA, that's your base endpoint. But what is our API? /persons, right? Welcome to my first API gateway example. This is what you got it. So when I make a HTTP GET call, take a look at it, observe it. When I make a HTTP, I'm pasting it in your chat. So when I make a HTTP GET call to that URL, that is what I got it. You can all try that. So when you make a HTTP GET call to this, it went to API gateway, and API gateway passed your request as is to your Lambda function, and your Lambda function responded back. It gave a HTTP status code 200, and it gives some body, and that body, it gave it back. Now, leave the API gateway as is. Now let's go to Lambda. Let's sign in. First API gateway function. Let's say function code. I'm changing it. So you guys can keep trying it. I'm changing it. Okay, I'm changing the content and save it. Okay, can you guys test it? Are you guys able to see it? Now let's refresh it. Oh, see that? This response is coming from your Lambda. So this is your Lambda. So this is how you can have your HTTP APIs. You can call now. You can build multiple APIs. You can have multiple methods. You can do all of that. Okay. So now, does it make sense, guys?
Yes, Venkat.
Yeah. So anyone has played with API Gateway before in your life?
No.
The reason I'm asking is, it's nothing to do with AWS. API Gateway concept has been there for several years. There are some great API gateways out there. Okay. Have you guys heard of a tool called Apigee? APIGE, Apigee. So Apigee was bought by Apigee API Gateway. So Apigee is one of the API gateway. Okay, it was bought by Google now. But 1 year, but not too long ago. Actually, 1 or 2 years back, I think they bought it.
Yeah, Venkat, we are using it, Apigee.
Oh, there you go. So we have an API gateway expert here.
I mean, I'm just learning. We just started it like few months back.
So you guys are using Apigee now?
Yeah. Earlier we were using WSG for the gateway proxy. Now
WSG, huh?
Yeah, WSG. That is another gateway we used to use.
I see.
That has been replaced with Apigee now.
Oh, Apigee, I've used it. Now, I've used Apigee quite extensively in my previous life. I love it. I love Apigee. This one I don't know. WSG, I've not heard of it. But there are some other gateways. Computer Associates, CA. What's that? CA Layer 7? Yeah, there you go. Layer 7 is another API gateway. It's a great one also. IBM has IBM API gateway. Well, what's that called? IBM gateway. IBM has a good API gateway. Actually, I thought there is a name for that. But they must have renamed it now. So yeah, IBM has a nice API gateway. Okay. So the reason I was asking that question was, it's nothing to do with AWS. It's API gateway concept is there ever since almost right after your APIs existed. The whole decade, pretty much, API gateways were there. And then Amazon, obviously, they wanted to take advantage of it and be part of the game, right? So now let's get back. Now, what I want to do is, we are building a weather service, right? I wanted to expose our weather service as an API. So you give me the zip code, I will get you the temperature, or I'll get you today's temperature, but it can be several pieces of information like humidity and all. Okay, so let's do that. I did not create a Lambda function yet. So we can start with Lambda, okay? Or we can actually rename this guy to the existing first API gateway example, right? So let's leave that as is. What we'll do is, let's create a new function here. Let's call it weather service. So let's start it from scratch, weather service. And then I still want to use Node. I will show you how to do that using Java also. But programming runtime doesn't matter. It's whatever your familiar programming language is, right? So this is your weather service, and it's giving 200, right? So all of this is fine. So let's make it little interesting. So this is what I wanted to do. I have some piece of code here. So take a look at this one. I have my handler here. I remove this guy. So I have an event and the context. So I'll remove this guy also. So I have a HTTP headers. So I want this to be responded back as a application/JSON. And here I have my body. Body has a zip code and temperature. It's that simple. When I do a return, actually, let's what we'll do is constant body. So my response is status code 200 and the body is, I have my body. My JSON, I'm just stringifying it and then give the response back. There you go. Okay, so it's a simple. So essentially I have headers I have one header, response header called applications/JSON, and my body is, my zip code is 48083 and my temperature is 72. And then status code 200, and my body is essentially this guy. I'm stringifying it and giving back. So my response has two pieces. One is status code, the other one is body. That's all. It's nothing fancy there. And if you want to unit test it, you can go ahead and unit test it. I'm not anyway looking at this key value pairs. I'm not looking at the events anyway. So what kind of response I got? I got like this. Okay. So this is good. My HTTP status code is 200. My body is this one. Fair? Now, this is my weather service. Now I want to hook this up with the API gateway. So let's go to APIs. Let's create our REST API and REST new API. I'll call it weather API. Sure, weather. Let's leave it like that. And now I want to create a new resource called /weather. Okay, you can change, by the way, your resource name and resource path don't have to be exactly same. So /weather, when somebody calls /weather, I will give the API, the REST taxonomy says that when you call /persons, you give all the persons possible, right? But /person/1234 will give a person with the ID 1234, okay? So now this is /weather, right? Now, actually in this simple example, we can go ahead and directly do a HTTP GET. When somebody calls /weather, I will give a hard-coded response. It doesn't matter what your zip code is, right? So let's go ahead and do a HTTP GET method there. It's a Lambda function, and I want to proxy it, sure. And USEs too. My Lambda function is weather service. Keep typing and it will show up. Yes, I want to give the permission. Let's go ahead and test it. Any query string parameters or any of that? Nope, just give it. So this is the response I'm getting back, guys. Your zip code is 48083, your temperature is 72. Okay, let's go ahead and deploy it. Let's go ahead and deploy this API to, for each API, you can create new stages, and it's deployed. And this is my API, and then /weather, right? /weather. Excellent. So I can chart, I can send this in the chat window. Go ahead and test it. That is coming from your Lambda function, by the way. Okay.
Yes, Venkat, we are able to see the response.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. So let's do this one. Let's make it a little interesting. This guy, it's dummy stuff, right? So let's make this guy a little interesting. So what we'll do is, let's go to API gateway. Actually, let's go to Lambda. Yeah, let's go to Lambda. And then let's test our API a bit. Oh, sorry. I want to go to the configure test events and then create a new test event and then template. So what I want to do is I want to go to API. So Amazon API gateway AWS proxy. Yes, this is what I wanted. And this is what I want you to pay attention closely. Are you guys able to see this one now? See here? Here, when API gateway takes the request and pass this on to your Lambda function, so you could potentially, let's say, path parameters. You guys know what path parameters are? Path parameters are nothing but your path variables, okay, in your Spring Boot area. So path parameters or path variables mean same. What I'm saying here is that, so /persons will give you all the persons, right? /persons /1234 will give you a person with the ID 1234, right? So here, this is a path parameter. So you define this API as person ID, like that, okay? And this guy will pass that person ID to your Lambda function as a path parameter. So if you can pass your /persons person ID equal to 1234. If you call this API, the difference between these two highlighted pieces is that this one, the first one, is using a path parameter, path param. The second one is using a query string.
Parameter.
Yep. Next one is using, thank you, query string, right? So here, your query parameters are, person ID is a parameter name, 1234 is a value of the parameter. And you can, if you want to do multiple, you can do and city equal to Ashburn. Yeah, you can do that. And state equal to, you can do something like that, right? So this is these are query parameters. This is your typical query string in your web APIs, okay? And these are called path parameters. So this entire set will be passed to your backend, okay, to your Lambda. So this is how it will be passed. All of your path parameters will be passed like this, and your stage variables will be passed like that. So I just want to copy it and putting it there. I'll tell you why. And where is my, all the headers will be passed like this. All the headers will be passed like that. And request context, okay, path. Where is my query string parameters? Yeah, there you go. See here, this is your query string parameters. So inside your request, you have a query string parameters, okay? So what I want to do now is, I can take out, I don't need any of this. I don't need any of this. I don't need any of this. I want to keep my query string parameters and path variables. And in fact, you can stage variables also. What stage, if there are any stage variables, you can do them. I'm doing a control D here, guys. If you're wondering what how I'm deleting it, control D will delete the line. Okay. See, so I want to unit test my API, my Lambda function with some query parameters. Okay. My query parameters. So let's copy this guy and put it here in our simple notepad. Now, I'll not worry about path parameters. I want to worry about my query string parameters. In my query string parameter, if I pass zip code, I'll tell you my objective here. What I'm trying to do here is that, guys, this is my API, right? I'll tell you my end. This is my API. When I call a /QA/weather right now, it is giving me a hard-coded weather information. Zip code is 48083, temperature equal to 72F, right? So what I want to do is I want to pass my zip code in the query parameter, question mark, zip code equal to, let's say I want to say 12345. Then I need to get a different temperature for 12345. Does that make sense? That is what I'm trying to achieve it. So how can I get my query string parameters is the idea. See here, I'm passing the question mark zip code equal to 12345. Your API gateway will pass this as is to your Lambda function. Okay. Now Lambda, we have to extract this query string parameters. Make sense? So that's why I'm trying to unit test it. Zip equal to, let's say 48084. Okay. And then let's go ahead and create it. Oops, I didn't give a name. Okay, so and now let's go ahead and test it. You'll get the same response, obviously. So, but you passed this time, what did you pass? You passed your additional query string parameter, zip equal to 48084, right? So what I want to do now is I want to unit test. I want to change my code here. What I want to do is let's go ahead and get the zip code. So event meaning this entire JavaScript object notation, this JSON object. Inside the JSON object, I have this query string parameters. So event dot query string parameters dot, and then inside, what are you expecting? What query string parameter are you expecting? I'm expecting something called zip code. Yeah, like that. Make sense? I'm expecting a zip code. So give me the zip code query string parameter is what you're asking, and put that in a variable zip code. Yeah. So this is my zip code. Now I can, now let's write down our code. If my zip code is 48083, then use, let me define this guy, temperature variable. Okay. So I'm going to say that temperature is going to be 84 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah. Else if zip code equal to 48085, then give temperature equal to, let's say 42 degrees. Otherwise, for all of the other ones, I'm just writing the code, guys, right? The default one is 68 degrees. If it doesn't match, okay. Now I will not hard code this guy. I'll go put this guy in my, rather than 72 degrees, I'll just say based on, now my response is based on, oops, sorry. My response is based on whatever you passed. Make sense? I'll go ahead and save it. And let's unit test it before plugging this into Lambda. It's already plugged into Lambda. We can go ahead and test it, but I want to unit test it first. So in my unit test it, I gave a 48084, right? Okay, sure. Let's go ahead and test it. 48084. Okay. Oh, see this one? My temperature I think is correct, but the zip code is I'm hard coding as 48083. That's not good, right? So 68 degrees, no, 48084 didn't match it. So it moved to 68 degrees. It went into the default. Okay. But I don't like this response. I don't like my code. So what we'll do is we will use the zip code as whatever the passed in zip code. Yeah. Let's not hard code it. Yeah. That's it. So let's test it again. Oops, what happened? Temperature is 68, yeah. Okay. This variable zip code, I got it. Okay, so if it is this, if it is this body, yeah, I have my zip code here. Okay, I got the zip code and I want to echo back, right? Actually, yeah.
Maybe in if condition we even have to include the zip code.
Where? It's already there, right? I mean, I'm taking the query string parameters and putting this guy here. Just echo back is what I'm trying to do, right? So,
Venkat, I think you have to use triple equals for equals in JavaScript.
that's okay. I mean, that's nothing to do with this guy here, right? But my logic is nothing. It's just whatever I have it. See, I'm doing a console log, right? Console log, console dot log, right? Passed in zip code equal to, oh, wait. Probably I'm passing a wrong zip code here, guys. There you go. That's the reason. Okay, it's nothing to do with any of this. See here, it's a zip code, all lowercase, right? Let's go take a look at this guy. There you go. That's the reason. So we did not pass zip. So we passed earlier zip. Okay, that was the reason. I'm sorry. Understood? There you go. Got it. So zip code is 48084, 68 degrees. And then now, let's say if I passed 48083, I should see a different. There you go. It's 84 degrees now. And my zip code is changed. And how about something else? 48083, 84, let's say 85, I think we gave one more, if I'm not wrong. Yep, we tested all the scenarios and working beautifully. So I'm pretty happy with my code, pretty happy with all of this. If you run into any issues, you can do a console log everywhere, okay? Save it. My Lambda is beautiful now. It's working really well. So this zip code is, I have to pass my as a, I have to pass this as a query string parameter. I don't change anything. My API gateway is already there. It will pass automatically. Just do a QA/weather question mark zip code equal to 48083. That's it. There you go. 48083. 48083. I got it. 85. I got 42 degrees and 484, 68 degrees. I got it. That's it. Piece of cake. So go. Okay, go try that. Make sense, guys? Are you able to appreciate what we are trying to do here?
Yes, Venkat.
Venkat, and what are stage variables?
So stage variables, these are environment variables, like your Lambda environment variables, right?
Okay.
So in QA, you're defining your JDBC URL to be, I'm making it up here, okay? JDBC URL, you can't have it in API gateway, but I'm just making it up. In QA, your JDBC URL is one, and in your stage, STG stage environment, you have a JDBC URL is different, and your prod will be different. V1 equal to version 1 is different. You know what I'm saying? Your values are different, right? Okay. So with that, pretty much we achieved it. It's with the node though. Now what we wanted to do is, now let's relook at your, now I have homework. Now let's take a look at our objectives yesterday. I asked you to create a weather data update. This guy, our analyst, will get CSV file from somewhere, and that analyst will drop that into S3, and our Lambda function will get invoked automatically. Did you guys see that? Now we have two Lambda functions. One Lambda function will be invoked by S3, okay? And as soon as the file is uploaded, that Lambda function will parse it. That Lambda function will parse it and then update your database table, right? Now this guy is a new service, weather service. Ideally, the weather service that we just wrote should read from the same database table, okay? But you need to be, you guys need to know the node, you're using node, how do you connect to your relational database and MySQL, right? I'm not that familiar with that, so that's why I use my language, which is Java. So we'll use Java here, and then we'll build the same weather service, but rather than Node.js as a runtime environment, we'll change it to Java. Okay. And the one I just showed it to you is query string parameters, right? The query string parameters, but you can change that from query string parameters to path parameters. So what I'm saying is, I think I just explained it also. See here, instead of query string parameters, instead of question mark zip code equal to 48083, I want to use a /weather/48083. Then you can use your path parameters. It's exactly same. Okay. And you may be wondering how to do the path parameters in your APIs. So all you need to do is just go to weather. So here, right, create a new resource, and then you can say zip code, and here you have to do your resource path in the curly braces. Then /weather/zip code. It's not your question mark. It's not your query string parameters anymore. It's going to be your path parameters. These are called path variables in your Spring Boot and right. So /weather/zip code. That's it. And do a HTTP GET. Create a method. Lambda function, use as a Lambda proxy. Yes, please. And then your weather service. Okay. So now when you test it, see here, it is asking for a path parameter now. So when you give something like 48123455, right? Essentially, it's making a call is /weather. Take a look at this one. /weather /12345 is what you're doing here. I know, yeah, because that is not expecting it. It's you have to change your code to expect your path parameter. Okay. Make sense, guys? So now this one, we can do it in Java programming language. So in Java, I already have this piece of code in our API gateway event handler. It's already there in your GitHub. So fully readily available for you to go and rock. So API gateway event handler. So it just Amazon made it easy by providing various event handler, S3 event handler, and your API gateway event handler. So this is your API gateway event handler. So one is, this is the complete request event. It's passing it to you. All the path parameters, all the path variables, query parameters, all of them will be passed in this object if you do a request handler. So request handler, you are taking it, this is an input, this is an output pretty much, okay? So this is all semantics. You don't need to remember any of this one, okay? Just Google it, you'll get it. Or use your, this particular POM. So don't spend any energy on that. AWS Lambda, Java Core, and AWS Lambda Java events. Use these two libraries and you'll automatically get it. So don't spend any time on that. Use your Node.js if you like it. So this is all just, so see here, request.getPathParameters.get zip code. That's how you got it. So this is exactly same as if you currently get query parameters. See this one? Query string parameters. .get. You can do a zip code here. See that? So either you can get it from query string parameters or you can get it from path parameters. One way or the other, you get your zip code. This is equivalent to this line of code in your Lambda. This line of code in Lambda. Yep, that's right. This line of code in your Node.js. That's all. Okay. And then once you get it, now your weather repository, your DAO, DataX object, your class that's responsible to read the data from your database, repo.getWeather_for. You are passing the zip code and you're asking it to give me the weather details. So using your driver URL, username, password, these are your relational database service parameters. Okay. So go to your weather database temperature lookup table and you pass your zip code, you get your stuff back. That's it. And then once you get the weather object, you set your temperature and zip code into a weather object and go back now. So here, once I get the database object, Java object, I'm changing it to, because I want to echo back as JSON, right? For that, I'm using a Google's JSON library. It's pretty simple. I'm using the JSON.toJSON. I'll get the response body and I'll just echo back. And I'm giving a body as my my HTTP response body. My headers pretty much accept headers, content type application JSON, and your status code is 200. Just echo back. It's that simple. Once you get it, you know what to do. You just build your jar file, upload it as a Lambda, and then unit test it first. before you plug it into your API gateway and then create a new resource, new method, make a HTTP GET, do it. Piece of cake. Make sense?
Yes, Venkat.
Excellent. So can you guys finish that homework? Take whatever the time that you need to, not a problem. Let's finish that homework. And then we will, at that point, pretty much we finished everything there, right? So after that, once you are done, what we will do is together, I will explain a concept called, maybe I'll explain now, it's not a big deal. So this is your endpoint URL, right? See this one? It is providing, it is creating some unique ID dot your API gateway ID dot execute API dot region dot AmazonAWS.com, right? And then slash your stage, and then after that your API, right? So this is your API. I don't like it. Okay, I have a website there called nextstep.training or nextsteptraining.net. Okay, I want to use my own website. How can I do that? Right? I have a website here. Route 53. My website is nextsteptraining.net. Okay, I want to use that. How will I be able to do that? Well, go to API gateway, and then here, custom domain name. So here you can create a custom domain name. Use your something like api.nextsteptraining.net. This is my website, guys. This is nextsteptraining.net is my website. So you have to have your website, and then rather than using the complete website, let's use a subdomain. A lot of people, that's what they do is, let's say google.com, right? api.google.com will all be Google APIs. Okay, mail.google.com will be your email, like that. Okay, so API dot your main domain name. This is a subdomain name. If I use a subdomain name, this is where this will be your front gate for all of your APIs. You can plug it into your websites very nicely. And okay, this is a beautiful approach. API dot your website name. This is my website name. So I'm sure all of you, I know you guys have your own website. So go to take your subdomain name. But only one thing is that, okay, endpoint type, do you want your regional endpoint or your edge optimized? Select regional for simplicity's sake. The TLS version, this is your HTTPS, your SSL version. Okay, you have to have ACM certificate, Amazon Certificate Manager certificate. So you must have it. I didn't have the certificate until last night. This one I have not done it before batches. Okay, so what I wanted to do it. So what I did is I went to Certificate Manager here, go to services, and then go to Certificate Manager, and then I requested for a certificate. Probably I can even show you how to do that. So request, click on a request certificate. Request a public certificate. Actually, first time when you come here, right, it will give you two big icons, and then request a certificate essentially, and then request a public certificate. So here you can define your domains. Here you can say api.nextsteptraining.net. Okay, and then you can say nextsteptraining.net itself, the root domain name or NAIC domain name. And if you want the certificate to include www.nextsteptraining.net, you can do that. And or if you want a wildcard, you can say star.nextsteptraining.net. Okay. So that's it. And then click next here. I know it will not, okay. It's a, so you have, actually it's already available. I don't know why it did let me do that. I already have it, right? So you can do a DNS validation, or you can do an email validation, meaning prove that these websites belong to you. That's all. That's all he's saying. So you can do it in a DNS way, or you can do it in an email way. If you do it in email, you will get an email. You prove it, verify that. I can do a DNS validation. DNS validation is nothing but what he says is go, the names you want to secure, sure. Once I confirm it, right, what he will do is he will give me some DNS entries. I have to copy paste them as is in my hosted zone. Okay, that is one way to verify it. Otherwise, you can verify using your email. So I already did that verification. So all he says is, see this one, export it, and these DNS ones. Since mine is luckily done in Route 53, so I can just by clicking this button, create record in Route 53. So what he's essentially saying is that go put this record in your DNS, then that's how I know that this site belongs to you. That's what he's saying. Because I can go directly here. I'll mention that netflix.com, right? Give me the certificate for netflix.com, right? So I have to prove that netflix.com belongs to me, right? So here by clicking the button automatically, see that it's the DNS record was written to your. So if I do that here, right? What it does is it will create a record in your Route 53 hosted zone. That's all. So that verification is automatic. Otherwise, you can select your see the pending validation, right? You go to Route 53 now. You will see what happened here is that your additional DNS record. See this one? These three, he added it. Okay. So he added these three. The CNAME, I'll change it to 1 minute. I'll change it to 1 minute so that my validation will be done quicker.
So, Venkat, so do they charge anything for creating the certificates?
They do actually, but you can delete it right after your usage.
So is it like the number of hours we use it, or is it per certificate we create?
1 second, bud. Nextsteptraining.net. So now I have 2 of them. I don't know why they issued actually. I was hoping that they will use the existing one. I already have it. You see what I'm saying? So I can use this guy. I will use this one. I'll get to your question in a second.
Is it because your domain name is different in both
my domain name is same, right?
No, one says API dot and other one doesn't have anything.
Yeah, it's I started this guy with nextsteptraining.net, and here I started with api.nextsteptraining.net. This is my subdomainer actually.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I can use either of them. Not a big deal. So essentially, one way or the other, you get your certificate for this. Okay, it's very important. Now go to your API gateway. We'll talk about
so
charges in a second. Go to now custom domain name.
All right.
Custom domain name. Create custom domain name now. Okay. And API dot your domain name. Nextsteptraining.net. Okay. and it's a regional TLS 1.2, and you can select your appropriate next step. I can use this one, or I can even use the specific one. Both of them cover. So that's it. This is my api.nextstep.training.net. Okay. So once I have this one, right? So when I call this api.nextstep.training.net, essentially, who do I map? Meaning, what API gateway endpoints do you want me to map to? When I call api.nextstep.training.net, which API gateway should I map it to? We did not do that. Configure API mapping, add new mapping, and I want my weather API to be mapped to this one. And I have one staging, so the combination of this and this QA, I want this to be mapped. So now when I go to api.nextstep.training.net, okay, not yet, but now I have to do a final step. I have to link this one to my Route 53, right? So, but at this point, this will be mapped to my weather API here, right? Now what I can do is, I'll go to Route 53. Am I going fast, actually? Apologize, I can even repeat, don't worry. So go to your hosted zone, and now create record set, new record set. And here my subdomain name is api.nextstep.training.net and alias S. And you guys know this A record here. See all of S3 website and all of this one. Come down, come down, come down. You should see your API gateway. See, since you created a custom domain name and that matches with your subdomain that you specified here, this is what you're specifying it. So when I go to here, Route 53, what you're telling is when somebody asks for IP address of api.nextstep.training.net, it will alias to this guy. So it will ask this guy, whatever the IP address it gives, it will give it back. Make sense? And now if I want to see if the DNS propagation happened or not, I can do a DNS propagation checker online, or I can use some Windows or Linux tools like NSLookup. Or in your Unix tools, you can use dig command, right? NSLookup, you can do a api.nextstep.training.net. See that? These are the addresses that it gave. These are the addresses that it automatically gave. So api.nextstep.training. And if I do a next step training, let's find that out. Okay, there is only one address for this one, which is your, because my nextstep.training.net is pointing to my static website hosting, but my API is pointing to API gateway. So at this point, we have to wait. We have to wait. So let's try. Oops.
Venkat?
Yeah.
So why is it showing 3 IP addresses? Is it because we have 3 canonical names in the Route 53?
No. You will have, in some cases, you will have 3, and you will, it will internally maintain 1 per availability zone, and then that's how it will manage it. Because these are not your EC2 instances that's in your hands, right? Your application load balancer, for example, you go do an NSLookup on your application load balancer, you will get several IP addresses because it has to maintain the availability. If something goes wrong, it has to bring back to normal, right? So it will distribute across all the availability zones.
Okay, thanks.
So internally, it is maintaining it. api.nextstep.training.net, and then missing the authentication token. Sure. Let's find out. And then /weather ? Zip code equal to 4808384, whatever. There you go. API.nextsteptraining.net. Weather, zip code equal 48084. How about 85? 84 is 68 degrees. 85 is 42 degrees. And your 83 will be 84 degrees. Okay. Make sense, guys? So, and is this not your end state? See here, you have your own website. This is your nextsteptraining.net. Okay, this is your website. So this is my static website. Okay, here, since you guys know all HTML and JavaScript, after this point, what additional homework I have is, what you do is, 1 second. Pull this guy down. So what you do is put a small text box here and a small button here, and ask user to enter a zip code. Pass that zip code to your API gateway. API gateway internally passing it to your Lambda. Lambda will internally go to the database, either your RDS or your non-relational database, DynamoDB. Get the response back. Give it to Lambda. Lambda give it to API gateway. API gateway will pass it to you, and you can paint it nicely using your front end tools. You can fancify it, using your Angular based web app, or in simple terms, at least put a text box here, click a button. This is your static website. This is your S3 bucket. Okay, so in S3 bucket, put a simple text box here and put a button there, and ask user to enter the zip code and click on the button. Then you make API gateway call. Whatever the API gateway response is, you just plug it in. API gateway is this one. And when you call it, you call api.nextsteptraining.net. And you're already in that website, and you are calling your own subdomain to get the weather data. You're not going out to get it, because you are the API provider and you are the consumer also in this case. Make sense? Was it too much?
No, it's good information, Venkat.
Awesome. So let's define the last homework here. Okay, static website in S3, Angular-based web app. Angular-based web app, you can do. First, let's start with objective number 3 is use your static website hosting S3 bucket. And create a simple text box for user to enter the zip code and press button. Press the button. Yeah. After click and after press the submit button or something. Yeah. And after click, on click of submit, make an API call. Make an API call to API gateway. Get the response and display on your screen. That's it. And before this, of course, create custom domain for your API gateway. If you own a website, example.com, create api.example.com as your subdomain, as your custom domain for your APIs. It's typical. What I'm telling you is industry standard. Almost everyone does that exactly same way. Okay, this is number 4, and after this, pretty much this one I will leave it to you guys. You know, some of you guys are familiar with Angular. What I wanted to do is you build an simple Angular website. Okay, don't spend more than probably 30 minutes or so. Build that. Okay, you do an ng build and deploy your HTML, CSS, all of that into your static S3 bucket. Okay. In fact, there are some tools out there to automatically, they will, you give your, AWS credentials when you do an ng build or ng, is there anything like ng deploy? So it will automatically deploy it to your S3 bucket. Okay. After that, pretty much you make it dynamic. Your static website, you make it dynamic by making a calls to your APIs through API gateway. So from your Angular web page to API gateway to Lambda to your backend, and replace your backend, replace your database from RDS to DynamoDB. That's it. That's even more serverless. Pretty much, you have serverless application across the board. You have serverless mobile app because you have your serverless APIs, and build your iPhone app on top of it using the APIs. You have every single ingredient out there, and you are not paying anything. You're not paying 24/7. Maybe you are a startup company like Uber years back, right? Uber didn't know whether the idea will click or not. They used all serverless. Okay, they wanted to pay only when somebody calls their API. It's that simple. Okay, you don't have to pay. If it's RDS, then there is an EC2 instance running in the background, so you'll have to pay for it. But use your non-relational database, right? So that's it, guys. That's a beautiful serverless. So this is your objective number 5. Are you able to visualize my vision? What I'm thinking? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Venkat.
Yes, Venkat.
Awesome. I guess we're on the same page. I just wanted to make sure. Let me stop recording.